Hello, welcome to Hartley Valley in the gorgeous Blue Mountains of Australia. Well, actually the main Blue Mountains are sort of behind me, which you might see on the video, the end of them, Mount York. But this is the valley between the main Blue Mountains and Lithgow and Oberon. So it's a nice open area, which I thought I'd bring my partner's little red Mini. She let me borrow it for a couple of hours to do some recording. I actually found that the back of the car, which you can see here, is an ideal little stand for my modular rack, one of the modular racks. And yeah, it's a lovely day in starting to move into winter, so I thought I'd use the good weather while it still lasts, just to do a patch from scratch. Not sure where this is going to go. I've got a couple of cameras running and the headphone cable is blowing in the wind, so I'm not sure how much my voice will be picked up by all of this. But yeah, let's just get into it. So what I'll do is, this part that you're listening to now is probably going to come after a performance, I hope. That's if I get that far. The piece, I think, excuse me, I'm going to start with something a bit experimental. I've recently got this Dr. A1113, which is a precision oscillator, which I've been finding is really nice to run in very low frequencies. So I'm going to use this. In fact, it's in LFO mode now, so very low. So I've got a tuning there. You can actually hear it goes from very low frequencies all the way up to beyond hearing, and it tracks very well. But the thing I'm interested in at the moment is I'm going to filter this sound through this MMF here, and this is going to form the sort of basis of an experimental underpinning underbed. So there we are through the filter, just fiddling with the frequency and the resonance. So you can see it creates quite a nice effect, this MMF, and which I'm going to obviously modulate because I can't control the controls while I'm performing. So I'm going to modulate the frequency, I don't know what with one of the oct outputs. So that's a I'll do for now. This is all sort of part of experimenting, setting up. I'm going to modulate also the pitch of this, so it goes from, that's too slow, let's go back to that one. So it goes from a sort of clicky sound in and out, so it's basically modulating this tune key here. We'll try it with, I've got to go over here to get the right lead. Hello there. So it needs to be attenuated, so I'm just putting this little attenuator fixed lead in, which is super useful for this sort of stuff. So I'm just going to put the frequency in there and modulate it with something a bit random. Should I go backwards and forwards? Yeah, I'll just go backwards and forwards on a bipolar. So there we go. It's basically just turning this tuning knob. I've also got pulse width. So with the resonance, that's a bit too uniform that, so I'm going to try something a bit more random. Let's try that one. So the oct is pretty uniform at the moment, so I'm going to actually randomize its own CV so we get a bit more randomization. The speed of oct, as you know, oct is the main bipolars, 8 of them, and then another 16 sort of variations of LFO. So let's try that. Oh, there we go. So I'll just turn the frequency down so it goes. And obviously this comes alive. Perhaps a little bit of granulation. And then over here I've got the FX8 XL, which I'll use for reverb and a bit of delay. So that's going to be the sort of start of the piece. Tighten some leads here. Using this very low frequency. I could also add a drone into this, so I'm going to think the output of this other analog synth here, which is the Doppler 1116 mini synth. So that's going to be that type of thing, which I'll just do a very subtle sort of modulation using a slow bipolar of the frequency. Let's just hear that in isolation because the first sound's going to be a bit crazy. So you're hearing a bit of the granulation going on there. I'll turn it down just a touch for the moment. While I'm doing that, I might modulate the position of the granulator on a very slow one, so it's constantly changing. Anyway, let's keep it dry for the moment. So that's just a straightforward sort of sawtooth. I could put a bit of pitch modulation. I'm using a lot of modulation at the moment. Let's pitch modulate it. Resonance on there. There we go. So they're two sort of underbeds. That one's a little not as drony as I'd hoped, so I might, let's see if I can find something, let's see what that one does. and a bit of filtering happening as well, a bit faster. And I might, on the frequency, just get it so it cuts off every now and then. There we go. So I'm just altering the attenuation here. Right, let's check the cameras are still running, because you never know these things. Oops. So good practice adjusting the volumes while I'm doing this setup. Right, the next thing is using the Q Nexus down here, this keyboard, which does CV and all sorts of things, but I'm just going to use the MIDI into New Godspeed, whoops, and then also the stereo MIDI out TRS thing into the disting. So I'm thinking of adding sort of melodic elements to this as well, because you can't just have these two going, although they're very nice. Listen to them all day. So just stereo out of the disting into channels 7 and 8. Let's turn the silly noises off. So that's on channel 2. There we go. So what I might do is take one of the sides and put it through a loop, just so I've got some nice, one of the sides of the stereo, the disting, so I've got some nice sort of constant string bed type thing going on one side of the stereo. And I'll activate that loop probably near the beginning, so I can so I can start it off. I could go in stereo, but then I've got to sync them, so I don't want to do too much clocking at the moment. Right, so that's the strings. I've also got, because I put the MIDI through the New Godspeed, the possibility of having just a sine out of that one. So in channel 3 here, in channel 1. So that's here, so I could do some modulation of this. Probably for like solo things. So let's just put a nice slow modulation into the timbre. It's probably too slow. Perhaps I'll make it unipolar, so choose the right size lead. So we've got some unipolars up here, which should probably work better. A bit fast. You can hear the modulations doing a sort of odd random thing based on this random feeding back into it. Increasing the effect of this random into it. I'll do for now. Obviously all these are going to be fine-tuned as I go through this. So that gives me strings, just checking. Oops, 3. Oh, it's 2, sorry. So on channel 2. Yeah, channel 2 is string, and then on channel 1 is the and again, this comes alive with a nice bit of effecting. And it is tuned, so the nice thing with this one, it will tune to a C, so I've already usually do that straight away. take the effect off. Strings, right, so we've got those. What other things? Let's have a bit of a, should we clock these? No, let's just use the Cosmos Quenser. So the longer lead. It's got its own built-in oscillator, so I'm going to put that into channel 5 up here. Let's just start it. So I've got control over the tempo of this. Yeah, I might clock it actually, because I want the octone to work as well. So let's get this working. So we'll put a 1 times clock into Cosmos Quenser. We'll find a nice sound, because this, as I said, this is the built-in sound. Not sure what speed it's running at. Oh, the other thing, the sun is pretty blasting at the moment, so what I tilted, well now this is ideal, because I can actually see some of the screens, even the disting I can see, because it's sort of the sun's in this, well this is in shade effectively. So what is this doing? I might actually put this through a low pass gate. So what that means is I can actually turn that sustain sound into something a bit more rhythmic and controlled. So let's just take a, so it's running 1, let's just take another 1 times clock into this low pass gate. And I've got on the Cosmos Quenser, I've got control over the range, the sort of how loud or quiet it is. So that sort of thing would be nice to come out of, like the low drones, for example. And then this turns into a mixing exercise. So let's have the 2 Dopplers. I can make the gate for this sound a bit more intermittent, so I'm going to go into clock 5 and make the probability like 70%. I'm just going to make the gate much smaller so I can control the gate output here, which also affects the low pass gate. Just increasing the range there. So this can go high at some points in the performance. So just this sequencer by itself. I could double it up. Let's take, for example, the gate into the surface. When I say double it up, I just mean having another sound playing that. So that's now got the surface active, and then I'll plug the surface over to channel, what are we up to, 6. So this would be a nice stereo pair. Let's choose a nice model on surface. Tune surface by the sound of it. So Cosmos Quenser, I'm not sure what scale it's playing. That's just on a C at the moment. Let's do sort of a minor, so it's a C minor thing. So that should work with the tuning of the new Godspeeds. So what's oh yeah, I forgot there's sorry, let's just go back to the built-in sound. So there's a random random rotation built into this, so I'm just turning that off. There we go. So now it's much more of a fixed sound on this. So that's the full gated one on the surface. So this might be a nice sort of high bell type sound to bring in, just to add some high frequencies. A bit lower. Right mode here. Just changing the register. Okay, something's active here that shouldn't be. Trying to get the shift down a bit. Interesting. Might actually reset the whole thing. There we go. So something was just getting in the way there. So I'll just reset this to a standard thing. I'll just go back to that scale. So this is the sort of thing that you need obviously more time to set up. At least I can see the display, which is good. It's an absolute nightmare in blazing sunlight, but the advantages of being outdoors sort of outweigh that anyway. So I'm just going through, finding that scale again. I'm just going to, just for now, I'm going to go 4 and 5. So what I mean by that is it's going to choose 1, 4 and 5, which will fit with that and all the other low notes. So I'll just see there. So I can change the relative speed to the clock here. So let's go twice speed. And I'll just check the delay is synced with that. So we've got, like I said, the actual built-in sound of the Cosmos Quenser on 1, which is being triggered more intermittently than the Surface. And we'll choose a different pattern, so it's moving around a bit more. And at any time in the performance I can just increase the tempo of that. If I go to thirds, that works quite well at that tempo. Might change the built-in sound because Cosmos Quenser's got some nice sounds. So let's go to something like this. With this one I can actually harmonise, so I can choose a chordal mode. And the low pass gate, try a slightly longer. So that's kind of cool. That would work well with like the strings to give it more of a melodic thing going on. Bring in the Surface. Okay. So what other elements? I can obviously introduce some percussion. For this one I want something more abstract, so I'm going to probably choose the drum 2. Just something that triggers a bit more random, probably a Euclidean. So I'm going to use ornament and crime for this. Just clock it with a fast clock. I think I've got let's just check what I've got set up on here. So I've got a Euclid X on this one. We'll give it clock 4, quite a fast 4 times clock. So the Euclid's going. And then I'll take that into the trigger for the drum 2. And then take that out. So what am I doing on output? So yeah, I've got 4 free here. So I'll use that as my sort of percussion track. This should obviously work with the clocked Cosmos Quench in this case. So the triplets on this one, let's go 4 times. So I just need to adjust the delay speed so it gets that sort of 8.8 type feel. Just going to check the Euclid, so that's coming out of 1. So let's increase. It's amazing I can actually see this. So let's just go to a straight 4. Now I can get this delay a bit tighter. See if it works just with the surface. Well, sort of. Just need to change this. Let's do 7 steps. More steps. So this is our clock's running at 125. How does that work? So that'll be the sort of rhythm to bring in. I'm just going to modulate the parameters of the drum 2 because it's just on a boring sound at the moment. So we'll give it a bit of a semi-random thing. Parameter 1. Let's see what CV's doing. So it's kind of a bass drum thing. Probably go well with these sort of early on. If I want to go to slightly industrially just controlling the decay and some of the parameters for this sound. Let's choose some different models in drum 2. Probably the kick drum model is going to be more suitable for this. It sort of goes from a kick to a tom type sound, depending on what the modulation's doing. Keep an eye on the levels. Let's just turn those down a sec. I'm just seeing what the granulator. Just adjusting the levels. Hopefully my voice is coming out, otherwise all of this is a waste of time. It's kind of cool. playing around with the sync delay again. What I'll do, let's make this a bit slower at the start. I can even go slower there. And not on the Cosmos Quencher, I'm just adjusting the fill so it's not playing a note each time. Just getting that sync delay how I want it. Speed it up. I'm going to randomise the pattern on here so it gets a bit more interesting. And also the rotation to make it more interesting as well. So that's the pattern, so it'll never sort of play the same sequence twice. Drop the octave. So obviously you wouldn't have the that drum sound kicking starting immediately. It's sort of draw it in slowly. Now just what did I want to check? Oh yeah, just the sound is a bit grating. So I'm going to go for something softer. So it's still got the chordal feel. So that'll be nice. Surface on one side, built-in sound on the other. So there's a million and one other things I could add to this, but I'm just going to go with that at the moment. So just as a reminder, we've got rather crazy pulse width modulated square wave going through a filter, and I can perform with a filter, so I can get some crazy things going with the resonance there. It sounds a bit fast whatever's going on, so I'm just going to check. So I think we've got, I'm going to slow the whole of op down so it's much less crazy, and also make the randomness less prominent. There we go. I can also make the tuning super low so it goes literally off the scale using this parameter here. Sorry, this attenuator. Just check which one it's using. So it's using the random. I might actually make this pitch just a slow unipolar. So it's more uniform in terms of the moving around the tuning here. So it should, I'm trying to get it so it goes, it sometimes disappears because it's literally gone off scale. Is it too slow? Yeah, that sounds alright. I'll put it in one side, and then this one, yeah, mini synth. For the variation of the LFOs. There we go. Right, so I've got it where I want it, particularly this one. And so the pitch is modulated by this unipolar. Might just make it even slower. Yeah. Right, and then obviously I can bring things in when I need them. Right, I need to adjust, I forgot to do this actually, is make the temp, this beat a bit more Euclidean, so I'm going to do 16 5s, well let's do 16 3s and a longer decay. And when I'm here, just fiddling now, I'm going to make quite a slow modulation of parameter 1 for the drum as well. So it starts, so I've got, I suppose, let's just check cameras. That's still running on that one. Oh bloody hell, this one's gone completely off. I wasn't paying attention. Doesn't matter. I've got this one as a backup. That's what I was saying. So I'll just fasten this down. It's a nightmare for performance. And the sun's blasting over the top now. Anyway, let's go for a performance. So hopefully this is at the end. So thanks for watching and listening. Let's get rid of these patch leads, and then we'll go for performance and see how things go. What do I want to do with this? Sorry. Yeah, let's do that. So I'll just restart.